What was your drug or drugs of choice if you had multiple, and at what age did you start using any substance?
Wow. So the first question, my favorite was opiates. That was the one that like made everything seem right at first. You know what I mean? Alcohol is another one. I found out that does the trick just as good, but that came later through a relapse. When did I start using, voluntarily on a recreational level? Probably 13. I moved to New Jersey. My dad took custody away from my mom at that time, but I joke about this. My mom, I was like one of those kids, my mom was getting loaded when she was pregnant, I came out all right, but, technically speaking, I was getting high before I was born, in my brain. And then shortly thereafter with the ADD, I'll be 40. That's my age. I'll be turning 40 in May. So, when I was like 9 and I was running around the classroom stabbing kids with pencils and not picking up, what I mean? Not like literally, I wasn't like trying to kill them, but like I definitely had something else going on than the other kids, and at the time it was ADD was what I had, according to the teachers, and so I got on Ritalin, like, in my opinion, like, pharmaceutical speed at 9 years old to make me sit in a chair and not be myself was my first lesson in substance use, right? So that kind of got pushed on me by the system, but I took matters into my own hands later on, as that plan didn't seem to work, as they tend to not. So I have like a long story, like I don't have like any like major bullet points, like where I ended up like in handcuffs. I'm like a weird case of I don't have a criminal record. I've never spent the night in jail.
Wow.
I wake up in hospital beds, like was kind of like my thing. And I did go to court quite a bit when I was younger, but I never got convicted. Like I went to court and got a lawyer and got a slap on the wrist, and then like changed my drug of choice. I would I would kind of mix and match over the years until I like stayed with opiates for a while, right? And so I know I'm kind of dancing around, but it's the journey to where I got to, I was 30, like everybody has their version of reaching that point, and if we have listeners that haven't, keep listening, right? Like, I don't want to sound like condescending, but like there's such a difference between the Ian that like had a problem or didn't have a problem early in my life to the Ian now. It's like, I can't even, I don't even know if I went back in time and like talked to myself, I don't think I would have listened to me even, what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
So I don't spend too much time on the wreckage, just a little bit to qualify,
Awesome.
Just like I could give you some like crazy bullet points that would earn stripes on the streets, but I don't know. To me, it, like the miracle of this thing is not getting loaded and to go like to not be in that state of mind, which is normal. Every day is presents new challenges, and I'm here to talk about those, and I want to hear about those from other people and stuff like that, and how I'm staying sober. Like how I'm continuing to do that,
Awesome.
and why I continue to do that, right? Because that's important. Like if we don't have a reason, like what are we doing here? And that was a big part of the reason I got loaded for so many years, was because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing here. I got kicked out of my mom, and I'm like, here, you're on Earth now. Like I didn't have any instruction. My mom was getting loaded, and my dad wasn't around. You know what I mean? Like, and I didn't know what the fuck this Earth was for. Excuse my language. I hope.
Literally.
No, you're good, man.
Literally.
Yeah, you're good.
So,
And you touched on some.
Go for it.
You touched on a really important thing too. You touched on so many important ones, but being that young, we have a family series too, and being that young and being put on the pharmacy, getting prescribed those things, definitely go and get like a second opinion too, and trying to figure out what works best for you, because it's crazy that children are so young, and have a mental health issue, but there's no other way other than shoving that into your system, and it's too bad that we do that to these people. You're so young, you don't even have that chance yet, you don't understand anything.
Absolutely.
And it's not taught, and that's where the dangerous line is,
And I like how you said you want to hear how people are staying sober. You know, like if I heard someone tell me how they were just getting high all the time or how they were getting high and things like that, then I would want to get high. If I went to a meeting, I want to hear the message and hope, not the despair and like the war story. And I want to know how you're staying clean today because I'm obviously here for a reason and I want what you have, you know. And
Ashley's story, she shared it. She's part of the Recovery Life Apparel, and she even said, she's like, I want to be part of the solution, not the problem.
Yeah.
And she said, she's like, I can tell you every day or all day what went wrong in my life and what I've been through and, you know, compare it to you and this, that, and other thing. She's like, but I want to be part of the solution. Why are we here? You know, so that's awesome.
no.
Yeah, but the family thing and the medication is huge, you know, like with kids and stuff and starting them at such a young age. It's a double-edged sword, you know, and
It is.
mental health is real, you know, addiction's real, but mental health is too. And some kids need it and some kids don't. And like, but at that age, it's so hard, you know, we talk about in mental health, a baseline, and you have to establish a baseline before we know what to prescribe somebody. And at 9 years old, I have no baseline. And when I'm loaded and I'm 30 days sober and my prescribed, you know, I'm presenting as depressed and anxious and I'm getting a prescription at 30 fucking days, you know, because my normie psychologist took 30 hours in his, like, you know, 10 years of education on what addiction is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And doesn't understand that my neurobiology is like at least 18 months away from like leveling out to where we can start to assess and make a good, you know, thing. I'm that. So I did 2 years white knuckling. I was diagnosed my whole life misdiagnosed, you know what I mean, with stuff like that. And but I do have a form of OCD, you know, and I do have that. And it took me 2 years being sober to know that it wasn't my addiction.
Awesome.
You know, so how do I tell somebody that, you know what I mean? But and you know, you're coming up on 2 years, and I'm telling my sponsor, I'm like, when did you stop counting steps? And he's like, what the fuck are you talking about, counting steps? Like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like that's different, you know, that's an outside issue. And so, you know, I have an outside issue that is rooted in obsessive compulsive behavior, very much like addiction. And now, you know, if I start sharing about that in a meeting, you know, I'm an outside issue. I'm not really feeling like, so, you know, there's a line and it's important to know where that line is in society. You know, like I'm all about that, like 12-step recovery, like, you know, not, you know, maintaining abstinence, not going to a chemical solution because, you know, most of the people out there writing them don't know what they're doing. But, you know, there's two sides to that too, you know, because had I continued to do AA, like the AA way, with like not, you know, which doesn't say not to see a psychiatrist, that's not the AA way, but like a lot of these old timers are like, yeah, you know, just like when you're new, I'm like, I don't know, I think something else is going on. They're like, yeah, keep coming back, you know. It's like, I think we should, there has to be a better system because there's too many people getting like sucked into one direction and only doing that, you know what I mean, and not like incorporating kind of a little bit of everything into their plan. That's what Sober Contracts is all about, and that's what I'm trying to do is kind of bridge that gap. You know, I'm a clinician and I'm an addict, and I've had to learn how to like tactically self-disclose and walk that line between, you know, being an addict and using empathy to help people, and then also using my education to help people.
Awesome.
Society has a job. They have to learn how to like when to be empathetic to us, right? When not to call us fucking pieces of shit and to put us in handcuffs.
Yeah.
But they also know they need to know when to hold a boundary and when to hold us accountable too. Like they can't just tell us like we have a disease and it's okay and like, okay, like,
right.
You know, so there's a lot of lines that are not being met right now, you know, and I'm not going to get on my little rant because I don't want to, I'll sit here and I'll start talking shit because like, there's a lot of like fake healers out there right now, you know? And I'm not just talking about the 13-step predator at a meeting. I'm talking about the crystal healer that has fucking borderline personality disorder that thinks like in fucking 15 days she can help somebody in a detox state. I've like literally seen this on Instagram. I'm like, dude, there was a lady making a crystal recommendation to help with a detox, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I might encourage that person to go to the hospital at this stage. You know what I mean? Like, like you could have a fucking seizure. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's an extreme case. Obviously, you know, there's a spectrum there.
Yeah, but it's very.
Everybody has the right to help, right? And so just knowing, like, what lane to help them in, you know.
And what extent, you know. And
exactly.
What extent. You got someone with 10 days thinking that they can help everyone stay sober when they haven't figured them out. when I hear someone say they have 10 days, that's worth a clap, man, because it's hard to get 24 hours, you know.
Absolutely.
But thinking like there's so much. That's what we try to express to people, is that is your time. That is your time. You will know when you can help people, because when it feels like it's too much to help another person, it means you haven't helped yourself enough.
Right.
Because you don't know where you're at yet, and you're not ready to. And that's okay, because guess what? It's your time. It's a selfish thing, and it's a normal, healthy, selfish. Take care of yourself.
And I think it's huge too, because when I went to jail for like 90 days, and then I went to rehab for another 90 days, but I withdrew in jail and everything, and then when I got to rehab, they were like, do you want to get on a maintenance program? And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? No, my body went through hell and back, and I was like, and you're setting me up for fucking failure. That may not be everybody's story, but I know for me personally, like, I have that addictive personality. It's always more. So I knew that then, and when I got into my probation afterwards, he was like, Olivia, it takes 2 years for your brain to fully rewire itself back to normal. And when I went to my mental health diagnosis and everything, they were like, well, let me watch you. And I was so upset about that. I'm like, watch me? Because if this goes untreated, I can use again. You're putting my recovery like at a risk, is what I thought, you know. And they were like, but you're at that state where we don't know what it is, you know. And so the system can be broken, but there are a lot of good people out there that have put in this work and are out there trying to help people get to that good standing point, you know. So that's
Absolutely.
awesome.
No, there's everybody needs a little dialing, you know, because we're humans, and in human nature, when one person is in control of something, we fuck it up. That's just the way we are, you know. We need more people to help the balance of everything, you know what I mean? That's where the group conscience comes into play in the group, right?
Yeah.
If we have a small group, shit can get fucking weird and mutated. You know, we start to get leaders and dictators in the groups, right? And so when you see a larger group conscience, the edges are usually rounded off real nice. Some of the biggest groups that we've seen write literature, right? Literature committees at these meetings, right? So like, you know, and I'm not going to plug, like, I've already said AA, so I probably breached a tradition, but you know, the group conscience, the literature committees that meet in some of these fellowships are comprised of hundreds of people, and then they revise these books over and over again. And each time it's revised, it's more eyes and more ears and more people kind of like, you know, adding to that. And that's why when we read like certain books, like whether it's the big book or the basic text or something like that, we feel that like, wow, this is so powerful.
Because it's our message.
You know, because of the involvement of so many people, you know.
Awesome.
And that's where it just feels good. Like, it's like walking into a room not knowing a single person and just feeling like you belong somewhere. It's
that's
a
great.
good feeling. Yeah. We're definitely going to have to do a second video, though, and that's okay, because this is what we want, you know, because...
It's a great conversation.
And it's not like... Because we edit it out and stuff, but we've definitely had some videos where people just, like, I don't know, man, we didn't really know where they were going.
You know the people in the meetings that go like...
I like the discussion. I feel like that's what makes the podcast a podcast, and, like, I like... You know, like, I like someone that knows the literature, that knows their stuff. And
you're so involved, too, with, like, what we're trying to do with the mental health and addiction. You know, like, we put research into it and stuff. And we were trying...
You put the drugs down, you're still left with yourself.
And you're actually, you have a degree in everything in that, right?
Well, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Is, I got, like, I've been doing this, like, a long time. I have, like, a lot of...
Right?
And stuff. I was a counselor I've been a certified counselor in California since 2013.
Awesome.
And I've had 3 lifespans in this field because I keep burning out. They teach us in counseling school you get 2 to 3 years before burnout average counselor.
Yeah.
So like I'm coming up on 9 years of like total like counseling now, and and so I'm like burnt in this field, and so
it is exhausting.
Not only that, I've worked at so many different places and worked for so many different unethical treatment centers. I want to keep clients on Suboxone so that they can make as much money as possible.
Absolutely.
And they like it when they relapse and shit, so they can get more detox like days.
We're all
about that.
And so I can't work for these places anymore, and so I just want to just take my ethical like counseling and offer it online because that's what everyone's doing anyway now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Good
And
for
so
you.
I actually am educated in the brain, and so this is my mission. I act as a liaison between 12-step recovery and the normie psychologists that actually have a lot of useful information for us, believe it or not.
Yeah.
They don't speak our language, but like Dr. Kevin McCauley, these guys know the part of your brain that goes dark when you can't choose. I can tell you, right? I can teach
The difference
you guys,
between a disease and a choice, you know.
I can explain the math on that. I know all
Awesome.
the you know what I mean. So when we sit here and we use certain words in the program, I can show you the science behind that too. You know what I mean? And we have to evolve with this disease because it is a progressive disease.
And we're all about the education aspect too. That's why we do the family series especially, and have family members get educated on it. For those that don't know if they have loved ones that are starting to use or that have been using, and ways to talk, ways to cope, ways to help themselves so they don't hurt themselves and get addicted to the addict, you know, and trying to save them, you know,
Have you guys checked out my YouTube channel yet?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I have that first year of sobriety on there is really good for the families. That's the.
Oh, good.
I actually wrote that. That was a group I ran for family weekends. I used to be the guy that did family weekends when the families would come in.
Yeah.
I didn't do the whole weekend. I would just do a portion, and I'd educate the families on addiction. And I would show them how their kids, when they come home from treatment, aren't healed.
Right.
You know, and how now there's actually the hard part the first year when they get back. And what happens with the brain, all the different, changes in brain chemistry.
I love that.
For that first year, so
That's awesome.
that's where that one came from. But yeah, cool. So I look forward to talking to you guys more. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Whenever, are you going to be able to do it later on today, or do you want to schedule for another day?
I'm open today. I mean, I'm just building this company, right? So I just drove to Pasadena and met with a guy for a logo. I'm at that weird stage where I can't really schedule my day. This is empty because I don't even know what to write on it. You know what I mean? It's just every
There's
5
so
minutes
much.
I have something else is popping up.
Are you doing online business?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's www.sobercontracts.com, and right now it's just it's more catering. I'm more catering to treatment centers still because my initial plan. I only got this camera and this mic and stuff to do group contract. That's what I did. So I was case managing full time at one place, and then I decided, fuck that. I'm gonna just contract because now I don't have to be as involved. I can come in, counsel, and leave. And this way, if they're doing any weird shit, I don't need to know about it, and I can just help people and leave.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that for a few years, and then COVID happened. Everything goes online, Zoom, everything. And so I wanted to step my game up, and I got some nice shit, and that's how I ended up on YouTube. But initially, I built the website to just market myself to treatment centers as high definition groups. I have a projector. I was gonna do slideshows back here.
That's so awesome.
You know, and I was gonna try to make a virtual reality group environment and market myself to treatment centers like that. And I just kind of put that project on the side. And I'm YouTube's blowing up. I have 700 subscribers.
I know. I was like, what the hell? I was like, what's he do?
It's crazy. So this is all coming from LinkedIn networking because I've been on LinkedIn for a decade now. Being in this field for so long.
Oh, you mean where they Linktree?
No, it's LinkedIn. It's where you can go for public speaking. You can put up a bunch of other stuff on there.
Yeah, it's like Facebook for business. It's like the business,
okay.
Like the office, the Dunder Mifflin of Facebook.
Yeah.
And people just network. It's just
Awesome.
And so, but I've done that. I have thousands of people on that for over a decade. So and a lot of them are in Europe and stuff, and it's cool. And the videos are getting played in treatment centers for groups because I used to do that. When I'm tired and I'm pressed for time, and I have to cover this guy's group because he's sick, especially during COVID season.
Just throw on a video.
Everybody's playing videos in group right now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I just figured, why not just make some groups for everybody? And then direct them to the website, and maybe I could get some contracts like that. And that was the contracts from Sober Contracts, but now it's more just a, personal contract to be sober, you know what I mean? And we'll see what happens. So now I'm going all in on YouTube, so we'll see what happens. So
that's where I think because I've been to hundreds of rehabs, not hundreds, but you know what I mean? I'm thinking about getting in contact with most of the places that I've been through so that we can get the click-through rate where they can just click on individual talks with people that are in recovery to see, so they can get the hope, even if they've been a year clean or 10 years clean, and see that no matter what, where you're at, it's possible. So,
Absolutely.
And that's why we were like, oh, we're going to share our stories, we're going to do topics. And then I was like, we need to reach more people. People can only relate to us so much, right? So we need to get more people on here. And we want to be where it's like, all right, you see a video of ours and all of a sudden you have all the meetings online, you have the suicide prevention hotline, and you have treatment hotline, you have all these videos of stories of people's lives that you can relate to and go follow them on all, like, you know, I want it to be that big tree, you know, like it's just a spread of everybody in recovery that you find what works for you and you fly with it, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
So-
I was just talking to another guy this morning, Willie, who I'm going to be doing a thing like this, an interview.
Is
on
it Other
his
Side of Hell?
Yeah.
We
yeah,
just
dude.
linked with them.
Oh my God. I just had an awesome conversation with him this morning, you know, and he made a good point. He's like, you know, a lot of us grew up and, you know, came into sobriety through the 12-step fellowships, you know, and meetings, a lot of us, right?
Yep.
And the ones of us that did only saw one side of this thing. And now, like, through COVID, you know, I'm going on Instagram and I'm seeing, like, smart recovery. I'm seeing all these different modalities to get sober. And you know what? As somebody who's been in the trenches a long time, like, I've been decultified. Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I just want people to be happy and to live their purpose and, you know what I mean, not get loaded. And if yoga is their way of doing it, then that's awesome.
Right?
You know what I mean? For yogis, like, so I'm interested in hearing about all these different ways. You know what I mean?
now how long have you used for?
So that's like a tough one to answer directly. It seems like every question in my life is complicated. I'm like one of those people, but. 13 is when I started to like use recreationally. Aside from the medications that were prescribed that I was taking as prescribed at a young age, despite their effects on my brain. You know, I was making a conscious decision to get high from the ages of 13 to 30. So 17 years, like pretty much every day, cycling through different drugs of choice, landing on opiates for the majority of the time, and then finding treatment at 30. I'll be 40 this year in 2 months, but I only have 4 years sober because there was a little relapse in there too. That's a hard one to explain too. You know, I started drinking and then I ended up like having a hip replacement and needing to be on meds for a while. You know what I mean? So like I ended up back on my drug of choice.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a complicated one, but I would say probably about like combined use, about 18 years of using combined.
Okay.
So time
Long
gets
time,
away,
yeah, it
and it's
does.
definitely a blessing to be able to be alive that long, you know, because there's a lot of just run wild lifestyle, you know.
Yes.
If it wasn't the drugs, it was
It's Russian roulette.
crazy, you know.
It's Russian roulette. You
And I'm
know,
glad
the
you're
next
here
one
with
can
us
take you
today.
out no matter what.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And now, who did your addiction affect?
So I have a very small family. I grew up, it was just me and my mother. And then my dad was not in the picture till I was 13. So, you know, even when he came back in, I would say it affected my mother, but she was loaded. You know, she still is. She's never not been loaded my whole life. I haven't spoken to her in years, but my daughter, I had, and she's 13 now. I would say she's the one who's affected the most by this thing. Addiction's a family disease, and you know, shit rolls downhill, and you know, I worked a 4-step, and I know my part in this equation. But you know, I was a kid, you know, and I was dealt a certain hand, and I played that hand, you know, the way I played it, and so I'm accountable to the decisions I made in my youth. But you know, I kind of look at that as like more circumstantial, and I accept that more. But I still, you know, battle guilt, trying to not being the one to break that cycle completely. You know what I mean? Like before my daughter caught some of those residual traumas. You know what I mean? Because that's what it is. Like, and so she got some of that. You know, and so yeah. To answer your question, my kid. You know, I owed a lot more amends than just my kids. So, you know, there's a lot of wreckage in my wake of using. You know, a lot of strangers were affected.
Yep.
You know, so like society at large, I would say. You know, and my kid, pretty much. I didn't have too many. I mean, I got a ton of like specific people I screwed over the years, you know. But like, I don't know, the effect we have on our kids is definitely a big one. You know what I mean? That one, that I mean, we could talk about that all, you know, for an hour, like in itself. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. You know, and the counselor and me, like, you know, I've studied some of this like epigenetics and stuff like that, and the effect our recovery has on our kids, and so. In the program, we make amends and we learn to like love ourselves more. And I've done that, you know, on a spiritual level and dealt with some of my emotional guilt and stuff that way. But through my recovery and continuing to make living amends to the community and like and heal from this thing and carry a message, my kid's seeing that, you know what I mean, today. And so she gets to kind of like still, even though like that window where she's really imprinting on me hard, like when she was younger, is over, you know, even at 13, she's still kind of, you know, these amends are not just affecting me and my like self-love, they're also affecting her direction still, you know what I mean? So
I say that to people that come on and share their story, and they're like, you know, I was a using parent, and I was like, but look at how amazing you're doing today. You know, the kid did watch you, but they get to watch what you're doing now, and that's the biggest lesson in life. Like, how amazing is that? We were never gifted that, you know, and we grew up in these homes where it seemed normal. You do what you're taught, right? So it's just incredible that we get to turn our lives around. They get to watch, you know, and that's the huge imprint right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My family, you know, my mother was a borderline alcoholic. Her mother abused her, and then, you know, I hear stories about my family tree. I never met any of these people, but like my grandparents were drunks, like according to like, you know, my mother's stories and stuff, and so, you know, again, if it's a family disease and like all these generations of addicts like landed on my lap, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like tasked to give my daughter this like sober version of me. Like, that was hard, you know, obviously, and I'm not going to beat myself up. I continue to try to do what I can with the present moment and do my best for the future. And hopefully she'll seal the deal. Maybe it's a 1-2 combination, you know, the Ian Madison duo, but I'm pretty sure she'll seal the deal, you know, and I hope I continue to show her how to do that.
That's amazing.
By you doing that, that's you sealing the deal, though. You know, by you staying clean, you're breaking that cycle for her to be able to have a normal life, man. You know, and that's
it's amazing.
Yeah, that's what being a good dad is.
Breaking generational curses.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's tough.
It is.
All right, now what led you to get clean?
So, you know, that was, again, like, you know, kids will do that. I was, you know, I never had like that my desperation was a little different. You know, I'm like a high bottom drunk or whatever they say. I never, you know, was convicted of any crimes. I never did any hard time. You know, I've been in handcuffs before, but for me it was sitting on my toilet, waking up after like a little, you know, a good one, like on a nod. So I was doing opiates, and so I was like nodding out, like, you know, at the toilet, because I would take my kid for the weekend, and I would go in the bathroom, you know what I mean, and I would do my deal, like, you know, I would simulate, you know, I was going to the bathroom or whatever, and she was like 3 or 4 at the time, and, you know, I probably overdosed on the toilet for like a long time, you know, and came out of it, and she was crying, and all I saw was her hands, you know, through the door, and like the idea that my 3-year-old was concerned with me, you know what I mean, and my health, that I was putting that on her at that age was like enough for me to kind of, you know, break through that denial that I had things under control. And you know, I'm a fast-paced addict, so, you know, I started kind of reaching out at that point. I had a buddy who had 4 years sober. His name was Eddie, and he came over and we got on my computer and started looking up, like, you know, treatment centers and help, like, numbers. And long story short, I ended up in California, and that's where I live now. So this was in New Jersey. I'm from New York City, and I flew out here to California for treatment in 2011 and just stayed out here. So I'm like a client who stayed in his area of recovery, and then went to school to be a counselor, and did that, you know, and stuck with it. So
we're in Watertown.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Small world. Yeah. Right? My disease took me all over. I have like 7 driver's licenses, and then I have like the chameleon part of me that's like, oh yeah, like I could like, Yeah, like you could be from anywhere, dude, and I know a street there, and I know I get down. You know what I mean? I can blend like real good. I'm a runner. You know.
Oh wow, yep.
My story's hard to tell because of that. You know, I have mania, bipolar type 2. You know, so
I get it.
So my head, you know, spins out sometimes, and it's harder for me than others at times to recognize, like, be self-aware in those moments. And especially my addiction, man, you add the two together, and fuck, dude, I ended up in like North Carolina, you know what I mean? Like crazy stuff. I ended up in the mountains of Costa Rica, like microdosing Ibogaine to get sober one time.
Yeah, I've heard of that before. That shit's wild. It's wild. So now, how are you staying clean today?
So yeah, that's been the topic. It's 2020 that was a game changer. So I'm a counselor and an addict, so I have to, self-care is huge for me, and I've burnt out twice as a counselor, and so meetings, were something in the beginning that, like the first 2 years. So I got sober this time around, my sobriety date, September 11th, 2016. And I came back and I had a hip replacement, and I had like full body atrophy because I was in a hospital bed for 2 years. And so I had a lot more than just like addiction I was battling. I was battling health issues and like diabetes, and I had a non-cancerous tumor. Like I just a bunch of stuff that was like, it was such a bottom for me that I didn't really even have time to think, and I just went to meetings, and I just took, like, I did everything. You know, if my sponsor told me to lick the table, I would have done it. Like if he was like, go shovel shit for 2 hours, like I just didn't question anything. I was so broken, and that got me through the first 2 years. You know, I honestly think I was detoxing for like a year. Like I'm not even kidding. Like this last one was like took such a toll on me that I don't even know what the fuck the first year looked like. I'm looking at my first year coin right now, and I remember getting that shit was like one of my first memories that year. You know what I mean? Like, like I can't like that. Like that first year was so traumatic. But I just continue to do the things I did then. But obviously since 2020 happened, and then as a counselor, it's hard to attend meetings locally. So I have to like kind of take my recovery to out like other areas. And so that becomes difficult, you know, and then obviously 2020 happened and everything went to Zoom. And so I tried Zoom, and to be honest, I didn't get like what I needed from that environment. I know a lot of other people that felt the same way, that energy, that kind of fellowship, and that you know, that spirit that you get there wasn't happening for me online. And I just kind of separated from bigger groups and just kind of kept a few tight people from my local support group. And then I started going online and like Instagram and stuff, and I started reaching out and kind of building like a social media like community of people to check in with. You know what I mean? Like DMs and it's just, you know, desperate times come from desperate measures. And, you know, I've had like conversations with people on DMs that I don't even know who they are. You know what I mean? Like at weird hours of the night, because I'm like stuck in my head and stuff. You know what I mean? And like offering help to people like that. And it's kind of funny because I can get more out of a one-on-one on a DM than I could a fucking meeting on Zoom. I don't know what that is, but
because it's like the spirits there, you know, like you were talking about. Because I think that it's hard that like being electronic, like we struggle with that. Honestly, like these stories of meeting with people, like we consider this a meeting right now. You know, because like this is amazing. You can feel the recovery, like communication, and that's exactly like what we all strive for, you know.
And I believe in the act of service and the act of giving back. And I truly feel like getting up, driving, going to a meeting, shaking somebody's hand, giving them a hug, making coffee, you know, reading literature, sitting at a table with your group, with your, you know what I mean, with your fellowship. That's an act of service. That's an act of giving back. You sharing your story is an act of giving back, because you got to give it away in order to keep it. You know?
Absolutely.
That's how we got sober, you know.
It's funny, you know, it's really important to verbalize that all the time. When I say, like, you know, the program, it's been like drilled into my head, the service part of it. You know what I mean? Like almost everything we do is an act of service. Like, you know, reading a newcomer, you know, making coffee, all that sort of stuff in the meetings. But like it's just become such a daily part of my life. I don't actually consciously think about it anymore. You know what I mean? Like if somebody needs the door held open, I'm not like, back in the day, I was like all proud of myself. Like, yeah, like, like I did that. And I I was like bragging about my acts, and now it's like, I don't even think about it anymore. I think my brain's just kind of learned that. It's like that sense of integrity. And this is really what it comes down to. The formula for how I stay sober on a daily basis is I do the right thing. It's integrity. I do the right thing. I have to figure out what the right thing is. I do that. I do it the right way, which is not always fucking easy to figure out. And then I got to do it for the right reasons. And if one of those three things isn't in alignment, I'm in my will, some mutated version of some shit. And even if I'm like almost on point, you know what I mean? Like, but if my motives are a little jacked up in there, the results are always end up coming back to me like mutated, and I always pay it off one way or another, and it's and then I had a sponsor say do the right thing when no one's looking, and not telling anyone about it. That's the biggest thing, and I think that's why only 4 years into this, like I've already forgotten how important it is to mention how much service has done for me. It's that paradox of thinking of myself less, I learned to love myself more.
My sponsor also said the same thing, doing the right thing and not telling anyone about it, because at first you would just get that urge to want to tell somebody about how good I just opened the door for I get what you mean. That urge, and that urge goes away because just doing the right thing becomes a natural part of life. Becoming a normal person, whatever normal is for people nowadays, like that becomes a way of life. Just like our way of life was out there doing people wrong and getting loaded. It's a whole new lifestyle. That's why the urge of like, oh, I just did something good for once. I'm not a piece of shit. You want to, and it's not a bad thing to want to say that to people, but then it's just like, okay, like when you say that to someone that's normal, they're like, yeah. So
I had a really cool, it's funny, like we got to go through those stages though. Like the newcomers, like when I was new, I needed to brag a little bit.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Like, let's make it deposit in the ego. Fuck it. Yeah. You know why? Because I needed, like months prior, I was like ready to kill myself. You know what I mean? So if fucking walking into a meeting with my shit all, like my hair all fresh to death with like too much cologne on, bragging about my acts of service is getting me to a meeting and going to create a better version of myself a year or two later. You know what I mean? Fuck it. Like we'll take the layup. And I think as I get older in the program, I really want to try to stay close. Obviously close to the newcomers, blah, 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 but like close to them, like in a sense, like I want to be that guy that like smiles at their fuck ups. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like telling them fucking from the top, like, because I've had guys like sponsors like that. They're like, keep coming back, shit like that. It's like, I don't know. There's like a certain condescension you get sometimes. And I really want to like embrace some of the fucking fucked up behaviors of the newcomers a little bit. They're like our kids, like our and so sometimes they got to do it like that. And that's how I did it, man. I would share about it in meetings, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. But now it just kind of comes more natural. So plus 2020 really put like things introspective for a lot of people, it slowed us down where we needed to be. And, I'm a talker. I've always been like long-winded. I'm from New York City, we're fast-paced people. And so that was good for me. I think it was what I needed, was a little bit of to slow down and separation from people. You know what I mean? To kind of talk to myself a little bit more.
Absolutely.
For 2020. So I've been really doing a lot more of that kind of introspection and meditation, and that's always been the 11-step stuff for me. Was like one of the steps I kind of skipped over. I'll like triple down on 10. So I don't got to spend too much time, with myself, like everything's fucking good. We're good. Okay. I was wrong, and then like, I don't have to pray, but I've been praying a lot more lately. And I think that's been the evolution for me. That's like the trend right now in Ian's sobriety is a lot of like developing a relationship with whatever the fuck is out there. Cause I was like an atheist, I was one of those. So.
Yeah. I just now have like me too, man. And like, I just never like, I don't know if I just didn't think about it. I didn't think of a higher being out there, at all. Like the religion aspect, it wasn't involved in my life, like even with my like family or anything like that. And I just never heard anyone talk about it, and then I actually just like had my own experience at one of the treatment centers I was at. And then from that point on, whenever I didn't have my higher power in my life is when things started going bad for me. you know? So.
Absolutely, bro. I say it all the time. Loaded or not, I mean, that's a big one, obviously. Like, when we're loaded, we're for sure not in God's will. You know what I mean? But I notice, like, one of my, like, indications I'm in God's will is I have good luck.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. You know, and I have bad luck when I'm not. Like, I'll get, for some reason, when I'm, like, rushing, when I'm forcing solutions, like, I'll get a fucking flat tire. It's like God's, like telling me, slow down, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When I'm on his track, though, like, that's like when I'll get like a random check in the mail, like a refund on something. The stimulus check usually comes that week.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like, something. It's such a trip. So,
no, it's for real.
I've learned that, like, even when I feel a victim to my circumstances, I usually created them in the fucking first place. You know what I mean? So it's like I could give you a couple ones, like, you know, my dad passing on February 29th, right at the beginning of COVID. Like, all these, like, crazy things that seemed like, oh my God, like, why are you doing this? Like, right now, like, make complete sense now in hindsight, you know? But at the time, they seemed like I was for sure fucking cast from God's good graces, you know? And he was like fucking pulling me from my work, you know what I mean? Or something. Like, that's what it felt like. And, you know, you just wait. And shit just fucking makes sense. You know, it just always does.
This is the longest I've ever been clean and sober, and the blessings on blessings that I've had, you know, like and I was such a follower and had to fit in. And like when I got sober too, you know, when I got high, I didn't give a fuck. But when I got sober, it's like because I was afraid to be alone. I always had to be doing something, things like that. And now, like, I haven't seen so many people for so long that like, my closest friends back then, they're dead now and I didn't even know about it, and like things like that. And also, like, when people see me, they're like, dude, I thought you were dead. You know, like, that's how much I've cut ties between myself and my past. And that saved my life. It saved my life because earlier on, even now though, like, I don't know where I would be at if I didn't cut myself away from everybody, because I was such a follower that to get back, like, to like think like I'd go out to a bar and like things like that, it just was never. I mean, it was insanity because I knew what the outcome was going to be. Yeah. So, what's your biggest accomplishment in your recovery this far?
Oh, so I feel like, I mean, there's, you know, different layers to that. Like on paper, probably getting my certification to be a drug and alcohol counselor. Yeah. I feel like that was the first time I ever felt like I wasn't a mistake. You know, like as an addict, I kind of felt like my dad reminded me of that my whole life. You know, like, don't make sure you don't have a kid. Like, you'll be paying for that one. Like, you know what I mean? Like, stuff like that. So, you know, they couldn't have, like, you know, they basically told me I was unplanned and they regretted it. So I grew up feeling like a mistake. And then when I, like, actually got my certification in the mail, I remember opening that, like, all that work, man. To get a KDEC in California sucks. Like, it's 2 years education, and then you got to intern for like a year and pass this like exam, which is like harder than the fucking bar. Everyone fails it like a couple times. Mm. They do it on purpose to get money, I think. And, and I was like one of those people that passed it the first time around, and,
Good for
and
you.
I remember just feeling like so not a mistake, you know.
Good for you.
And feeling like for the first time in my life, like that I was actually adding to the value of Earth. Like even if it was like a fucking 0.0%, 1%, like me being here made it that much better, just a little bit better. Was the best feeling I've ever had in my life, man. It was like a birthing. Like, I felt like I was like allowed to be here. And I remember doing shit like going to Knott's Berry Farm and Disney and stuff, like, and actually feeling a part of the group of humans now, because like I had a right to be here for the first time. I wasn't stealing my space, like, because that's what it feels like when you feel like a mistake. You feel like you're not, like you're a glitch in the matrix or some shit. Like like these people are allowed to fucking have things and you're not. Like, it's weird, you know. And being able to like enjoy myself and like go on a ride and feel like entitled to fucking be there and like I'm not doing something wrong was huge. And that was all because of that fucking piece of paper. You know what I mean? I put so much value on that. That's crazy. Yeah. But just working for something and getting it was like kind of cool, you know, for the first time. So yeah. I would say that. And then my kid, I mean, you know, obviously everything, those little victories, you know, with your kid that, you know, don't sound cool in an interview. You know what I mean? Like,
we get it.
100%.
Yeah. So those are the big ones for me, you know, like the times where I know she feels loved and, you know, the times I'm able to give her like some information that I didn't get or like a feeling I didn't get at her age, you know? stuff like that. Like insight to this fucking deal, like why we're here and shit, like how to develop in this spectrum. Like, you know what I mean? Like to some of us, it's weird. Like I don't know. I question stuff. You know, like I wasn't like one of those kids that was like, oh, we're supposed to do this. Like I asked why a lot. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's a good quality. You know what I mean? In people. And I don't know. I feel like society is going in another direction. And I'm not getting political. It's part of counseling. You know, is social stressors. And that's a huge part of our addiction is stress, and that's where it's rooted. So social interaction is a stressor. You know what I mean? For a lot of people, more than others, you know, depending on their demographic, but it's important to acknowledge, you know, some of those things. You know, we deal with it as addicts in society today. You know, I walk in, you know, it looks cool to some, but there's still a lot of people that don't think we're that cool, you know, being like sober. I think that like we don't deserve, you know, any sort of like pat on the back, that like we shouldn't be getting loaded anyway. You know, there's a lot of people like that don't think it's a disease still. And, you know, it's just the playing field we're in, right? So I get it though.
And where it comes from is just, you know, like you haven't been there, you know, like they haven't been in our shoes. So, and that's understandable. And I used to hate those kind of people. And now it's just like, I get it.
It's like you want to educate them though. Because there's people on TikTok that I've seen like bash people, you know, for being in recovery. They're like, oh, well, it's not a flex. And they're like, I survived. You
never deserve your kids again, you know?
Yeah, and they like pull these things from society and what we look like, you know, like what our stigma is. And people explain their story and their life. And I've seen people turn around and been like, wow, thank you for explaining that. You know, and if we educate people the correct way of what this truly is, I think that's when the door at least opens up for some kind of an understanding, you know?
100%. 100%. I mean, we have more jails in California than universities.
Oh, gosh. 100%. Yeah, same out here. More
crazy, right? The system is fucked, but that's
it's a machine, and I think what's happening is we're like the remainder of all part. You know what I mean? Like we're like what's left over. You know what I mean? It's like the kids are coming out fucking chewing on their shoulders because like of what's going on, and we're not raising kids anymore. You know, it's not about pass them off to the schools. We're too busy on our phones to fucking listen to what they're saying. Yeah. I get it. A 3-year-old shit's not that fucking stimulating, but we have to listen. We have to. And we're not anymore as parents. You know, I'm not saying you guys sound like you. I see you guys are with your kids right now, so you're probably not who I'm talking about. But a lot of people aren't. You know what I mean? No, I was just listening to one of my buddies complain. I'm not even, hopefully he doesn't hear this because he's going to know who it is, but I was patronizing with him on the phone just because I didn't want to get into it, but like he's sitting there bitching about, you know, they paid their fucking Montessori place to watch their kids, and because of the COVID restrictions now they can't, but they didn't get a refund on their fucking money. And I'm like, oh my God, dude, you have to spend time with your kids now? Like, holy shit. like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like, you're like, this is what I'm listening to right now? Like, there's people with real problems, you know what I mean? Like, I should probably have your kid on the phone right now. You know, I should be hearing what they got to deal with, fucking listening to, you know what I mean? And this is a friend of mine, you know? So
I totally agree.
It's everywhere, you know? And honestly, I think the core to this thing isn't this thing, you know. You know, we got to watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix and start to unplug a little bit. And you know, the cure to this disease is spiritual principles. Like, you know, none of that shit has anything to do. Patience has nothing to do with heroin, you know. So, you know, I think that's where we really need to focus fire right now. You know, you know, everyone wants to talk about like what we were doing and our diseases and shit, but like, fuck, dude, there's like a deficit of people that even know what the word spirituality fucking means right now. Yeah. I can't even go on TikTok. I don't know how you guys do that. Like,
we were literally.
For like 1 second, I'm like, oh my God! Like,
we were literally just talking about that, and we're trying to make the impact of like, you know, everyone has their own recovery, right? But then everybody's at different levels, and I think that's what's really hard is because it's like we see that these, like it's social media, right? Like the news, everybody wants to listen to the bad shit. Nobody really cares about the good shit. And that's what's hard is because so many people are attracted to that chaos, right? So those posts like blow up. And then when you're trying to make like an impactful one or share your like experience on a certain thing, it's like, it's not as interesting. Like, you know what I mean? And when we first started, like, the biggest part of my recovery was social media. Cut that fucking shit out. I can't stand it. I can't do it. It was like so bad. It took me a year to get my connects out of my phone. And I was like, oh, they're just going to stay there. My sponsor's like, but why? I was like, I'm not going to use them. She goes, okay, so why do you have them? And I'm like, I don't, and it stayed for a year, you know, like for the reservations, like, oh, I'm going to be a functioning crackhead in 5 years, you know, like, I don't know. So, but it was like, it came to a point in my recovery. It took a year in my early recovery, and I got rid of absolutely everything. And then when we started this and doing outreach, it really affected me. I was like, babe, and we're not each other's recovery, but we definitely help try to straighten each other's path, right? So I'm like, babe, like, this is, like, I feel this certain way, you know, and he's like, but why are you doing it? And he pulls me back, you know, like, he shows me that the bigger picture that we're doing this, you know, and it's not for the views, it's not for the likes, it's not my ego and all that, you know, so I have to definitely watch that. And that's something that's huge for us. So if we have to step back, we fucking step back. Like, it's that simple, you know? So TikToks can be not.
Absolutely. And I get the whole, like, separating recovery shit that you have to even go into those disclaimers because people are, like, uneducated on what interdependent relationships are.
Yeah.
You can be in, just so everyone knows, as everyone's aware, you can actually be in each other's recovery. Like, you're married with kids, like, you're going to be, recovery's your life. Like, you're going to be in that. All you have to do is have an interdependent relationship and understand what basic codependency is. And as long as you're not, like, doing that shit, which any couple needs to do anyway. This has nothing to do with recovery. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
absolutely.
You know, we don't want newcomers sleeping around and shit, but, like, couples get sober together and can talk recovery. It's okay. You guys aren't going to, like, cross-pollinate and music. The program's, like, kind of culty, dude. I got to be honest. Like, I feel like it had to be for a while, but, like, it doesn't anymore.
Nah.
You know, it's a progressive disease, and like, you know, when they wrote the book and traditions, like, we weren't factoring in fucking Zoom. You know what I mean? There's so many, like, new variables right now. Exactly. We got to roll with the times, and we know what it is now. Like, we have the scans and the science. Like, we don't need to sit there and fabricate, like, these, like, mystery, like, you know, the what do they say in the big book? It's the phenomenon of craving. It's not a fucking phenomenon.
Nah,
we know exactly what it is.
It's science.
Like,
it's literally how our body works.
Exactly. So, you know, it's great, but we gotta roll with the punches a little bit. And right now, in my opinion, it's the best thing out still, and that's a problem because I think AA is still the place to be. You know what I mean? And like, it's I just feel like we could be doing better for ourselves as well. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's why we're doing what we're doing, you know, because guess what? That was taken away from a lot of people, and people are not ready. A lot of people were not ready to not have meetings, you know, and whether it's NA, Smart Recovery, it doesn't matter. A lot of people were not ready to have meetings, and a lot of people aren't with us today because of the coronavirus and things like that. So that's where like we jumped on to play, and I feel like a lot of these creators jumped on to play, and that's why the recovery community is so big right now, is because everyone's trying to do something to put a hand in play, so like that people have a place, an outlet, you know, like
to at least go to. Resources are great, you know, it's all about connection and community and relating to people that are understandable, you know, that can relate to you. And that's really, like, it's huge.
Yeah.
When I first got sober, it was like 99% of the people that were sober, that were, like, actually sober, not fucking lying, or, like, you know, on some type of maintenance program, you know,
right.
and saying that they were sober, which is still sober. Like, you know what? If you fucking just stopped using needles and you didn't know Suboxone's not fucking clean yet, and that's what you're doing, to me, that's fucking sober still.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, in that person's fucking world, that is a huge step towards sobriety, and they, you know what I mean? Like, so, but, you know, the guy who's been doing it for 10 years that's still fucking lying to himself, that's another, you know, situation, whatever. What the hell were we talking about? I do this all the time.
Don't do this to me. I don't know.
What was the topic right before this, before we got into maintenance?
Meetings?
Oh, yeah, the meetings.
Oh, right. So here's the deal: is when I first came around, I thought everybody was a 12-step person. The people that were actually sober, you know. So like you could tell right away if someone was bullshitting if they knew like some of the nomenclature in the meetings, you know. Like if you said like easy does it or something, or one day at a time, you know, or take someone else's inventory, you knew right away that they'd probably been to a meeting and you know, and. But nowadays, so I'm thinking like I'd say half the people I've talked to now don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. When I'm like, oh, it's step 4 shit, they're like, what? Like what step? Like
because they don't read the literature anymore.
No, they don't even know what AA is.
Oh, okay.
There's a couple accounts on Instagram I follow right now that like got their first stop. Like the place that they went wasn't a meeting; it was Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
Like they see this culture. They're seeing this culture now, and they're like, I want in that culture, and then they're getting on live TV like 3 days sober, like who's with me? Like they didn't know that we got sober in a fucking program. They thought we just started on Instagram or some shit. So now a lot of people are like kind of just like seeing it's like NA and AA was like attraction rather than promotion. We're literally promoting this shit now on Instagram, and people are like joining. Like you know, we got Team 12. You know, there's like it's like these guys are it's like clubs almost or like popping up. You know what I mean? Like recovery clubs and it's birthing a whole new inlet of people. You know what I mean? People see other people getting help, not on NA or AA like shit, and they're gonna do that. There's and all these other programs. You know, every time a client comes to treatment and doesn't like AA and favors smart recovery, like you know, smart recovery is getting bigger now, and there's like all these, and a lot of people aren't even doing anything. They're just going to a therapist. You know what I mean? Like and talking about it, like or counseling, like individually. You know, after like a detox. So many people are sober right now, not finding it through 12-step fellowships. You know what I mean? And that's what I was talking to Willie about this morning. Is like he wants to know more about that. Like that's what he was saying. Like he wants to hear about those stories. Like how did you get sober? Like I want to know about that because I thought it was just fucking. This was the only way. You know what I mean? Kind of that too. You know. Reaching that level of spirituality where you're not above or beyond anything, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, because we get a lot of, like, we believe that everyone's individual, right? Like, everybody has their own life experience, and their recovery is going to not look the same as everybody else's. That's what we believe. If you work a 12-step or not, nobody has the exact same one, and that's fine, because it's not supposed to be the same, right? So we have people that come on, and they work something different. And we're like, that's fine because it's showing other people that there's other options out there, right? Like we don't want to we want to be examples, right? And what we believe is you will find what works for you and you will find what doesn't work for you. And the great thing about recovery is you just grow past that. So
and
keep trying, find other things, do what you need to do, you know, just don't ever give up on it.
And don't take too long to find out, like, you know what I mean? To like
listen to other people,
to switch. Right? Don't do something that's not working for you for this long, you know, like try different things. And it's okay. It's taking healthy risk. You know, don't stay at a standstill and don't go back because that standstill could be just as worse, you know? So, All right. Now, if you could say something to someone who is still actively using, what would you say to that person?
Oh, man. I think about that every day, all day long, because it's what I do for work. I'm always trying to figure out a way to get through the disease. You know, it's and it's also what I'm trying to do for work, like on interventions and stuff. So like that, just really trying to, if I could get through, what's the question exactly? If I could make them understand one thing, or if I could just...
If you could say something to someone who's still actively using, what would you say to them?
You know, I mean, I would start by you know, obviously, like, whoever it is, depending on their flavor, I would want them to know that they're loved, you know, that they're not mistakes, and that there's, like, real reasons for, like, their behavior, you know what I mean? Start with that, like, because we're in fight or flight if we're using, so can't tell us anything, you know what I mean? But we're gonna disregard everything. But the one thing we don't disregard, and this is important for everyone to hear this, like parents too, is you got to learn how to talk to us. You know what I mean? We're on the defensive because we haven't been hugged in a long time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the more angry, and this is coming from I'm like an anger guy, so I've had to do. I'm not even kidding, dude. I got this guy right here. I work out of, you know what I mean? Like, so anger management was a big one for me, and trust me, I'm the hardest person to love on when I'm in my disease. But the only thing that worked, and the only person that was willing to do it, was this like big tatted up dude who did like 30 years in prison. His name's Leo. He's from this place, and he was the only one who like saw like a wounded kid in me. You know what I mean? And he like loved on me a little bit, and so, you know, it's hard. It's like a trick question. I don't know how I would, like, there's not one I wouldn't say shit. I'd probably just fucking listen to them and be there for them and let them know I'm not here to judge, and I'm not here to reposition them in a way that they're not trying to be repositioned.
Yes.
Amazing. I love that. I think that's actually the first time we've heard that.
Yeah. That's
very powerful.
So now, if you could say something to a family member of someone that struggles with addiction, what would you say to that family member?
That's another thing I struggle with on a daily basis, and why I stepped out of counseling on a case management level and I got into group contracting, which is where I'm at now, is because I don't like talking to those people, because I struggle explaining to them that they're actually the sickness. What I learned in school is, you know, it is a family disease, but the host, the core of the disease, isn't the chief enabler or the codependent. And so that's 99% of the time the person I'm talking to on the phone that wants to know how their piece of shit addict is coming along. And they might not use those words, but they want me to fix them. And so this is the way I'll explain it to these people. If any family members are listening, and I love you guys to death, it's not your fault. But you're the sick ones, and the symptoms manifested in us.
Wow.
But you won't see that, and you'll fight me on it, and you'll, you know, get crazy because you're the one who's suffering in worse denial. But I'll give it to you like this: if you've ever seen The Dog Whisperer, when Caesar Milan is hired, right? Like if I have a fucking pit bull and it's like biting people and shit, and I hire the dog whisperer to come in, the first thing he says is, I don't train dogs, I train humans, I rehabilitate the dog. We have to go to rehab because we're all fucked up, because we were like traumatized because we imprinted on somebody who's sick as fuck but didn't have the disease symptom, because they're part of their brain, which we've learned the on-off switch it's literally like a genetic predisposition. You know, I didn't do anything different. I didn't make any poor choices. I had beer at a party. I couldn't stop drinking the beer. You know what I mean? Like it turned into other shit. Like I made the same choices as everyone else. It just affected me different. And you know, the reason it did, and it was, I was coping with trauma. You know what I mean? Like and everybody out there, you know. Oh man, there's science. I'll skip that. But what I would do is I would encourage them to watch The Dog Whisperer and watch that show and look at how that happens. You know what I mean? And how enabling creates monsters. You know what I mean? And how like no boundaries, how we didn't learn boundaries from these people. You know what I mean? And how that's a double-edged sword, and it goes both ways. Like all these things, like. You're going to keep killing your kid. There's only two ways about it. You're either helping or hurting them. There's no spectrum. And you're killing them with love. You're loving your kids to death. You think you're helping, but you're fucking killing us.
And the saddest thing is they're not getting educated until after their child is dead. You know, and then they want to do everything to try to stop addiction until their child's dead, but not before. You know,
listen, we have packets that I send the family. I put it all like fucking dummy proof in a stack. I never had a family member ever do it. 1 out of 10 will go to an Al-Anon meeting. You know what I mean? They don't do their part, you know? And then the kid comes home from treatment. That's why I made that video on YouTube for the first year, was so that they back the fuck off. Like, we're not going to get a job. I need to go to a meeting fucking 5 times a day for like 3 months, you know? Like, I know it seems like I'm bullshitting, but Denny's after the meeting is actually important right now. You know what I mean? Like I know, and I remember coming home from treatment, sitting at the table. These motherfuckers didn't know I was high for like 10 years straight. I'm actually sober, but I'm like in my first fucking 60, and I'm like shaking at the table, and I got to like anxiety. I need it. You know what I mean? I'm all fucked up because I'm in like the first time in like 17 years. I'm like seeing and feeling everything, and they're like, "Are you high right now?" You know what I mean? I'm like, no, I'm not fucking high for the first, you cocksuckers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they were the worst thing for me.
It's because we're normal when we're using, you know? A lot of us are normal, like, when we're using. Like, it depends on what we're doing for real. But, you know, like, for me, like, with opiates, it made me feel like a normal human being because I couldn't deal with all the shit around me.
it stopped my anxiety, because when I get clean, I suffer from panic disorder and PTSD, you know? So that's why I couldn't be alone for 2 seconds in a room by myself. And like, I get you, man. More people thought I was using when I was clean than when I was high.
So now you get to meet. This is my fiance. Her name's Olivia too.
Wow, nice to meet you.
I was gonna get into that at some point. We covered the ground and we didn't have time to say that. And then you might as well meet our son. Our son here. He's not
I see all your posts with him. So cute. Aww. It was nice to meet you, Olivia.
So we work from home. I'll give you guys the grand tour real quick. So it's cool because I set this up to look like an office because it
looks like an office.
It is. I mean, it was designed to be for groups and treatments. So like, boom, now I'm in treatment, you know. And so I got like, you know, the office. I got the shredder.
The shredder.
We're
working hard out here.
You don't have an office without a shredder, you know.
Right. Well, I mean, HIPAA compliance, you know.
Yeah.
And then I got the bed over here.
Okay. Yep.
Well hidden, man. Well hidden. You know?
No, that was good.
Under here, I got the dog crate.
Aww.
Oh, cool.
So it's like a tiny home.
Hey, it's a great setup.
Yeah, dude.
It works so well.
This was our bedroom, right? Yeah, this was our bedroom.
And then we got pregnant, and we needed to have the baby with. Well, yeah. And then we got into the bigger room. We actually put up a wall and everything.
We built, me and her dad and her. We built a wall to make it another room.
Make it like a huge master room. So we got 2 closets in there, a baby crib, and a bed, and
good to go. You know,
a bookcase full of books. And that's it.
We're growing. We're progressing. You know, it's better than most places I've slept. You know, it's actually quite nice.
Absolutely.
I got another buddy who he was like, doing great. Got 2 years. Was an old using buddy of mine, which is crazy. And he's sober, which is like a miracle. I couldn't believe both of us made it out of that. You know what I mean? Like I thought I was the only one, but he's sober too. He's got 2 years, and he's doing fucking counseling in New York.
Awesome.
He's a counselor, just like me. It's such a trip. And then we were talking, and he's like showing me a spot. I'm like, dude, it's tight. He's like, it's a trailer. I'm like, bro, it's not a fucking sleeping bag. Like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Be proud.
Like, who cares what the fuck it looked like?
Exactly, dude.
Man.
Yeah, people. Exactly.
I'm like actually jealous he found a trailer. Like, I'm like,
and that's the thing, though. People will judge you and like on how good you're doing by the things that you have, and not the knowledge that you've gained. You know, because someone could be sleeping in a trailer and be a fucking counselor and helping people, and someone else can be spending all their money trying to buy cars and do all this shit and just not giving a fuck about anybody else but themselves.
And we would much rather have a very nice, comfortable home and be able to go see the beautiful world that we live in. Absolutely. We'd much rather spend our money on adventure and journey before having we've had nothing, and guess what? We were still fucking happy. Yeah. You know, and I think that's where we don't ever want it to get to the point where we are not grateful, you know, because that's when you're walking on some thin freaking ice, you know.
This is like, to me, where I'm at right now, and fucking hopefully I redefine and continue to redefine, but I'm pretty sure like this whole shit is just that. Like our whole, like all this, all it is our connection to others. Like our, our all that stuff, that's all the only thing that matters, like literally. And so I've like gotten to this point where I'm like, I'm starting to like see, I'm envious of people that are like off the grid, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to minimize, look, people in Africa have like really hard situations. I don't want to sit here fucking where I'm sitting and be like, yeah, I'd fucking trade it in a second. No, I probably wouldn't. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really grateful for some of these fucking like things that we have, you know what I mean? Like I have a nice like setup here. Like I can talk to you guys, like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have that, but they have something. I guarantee you, those motherfuckers smiled more than I did today.
100%.
Yeah.
I see it. The kids are laughing. They're fucking laughing.
I know.
You know, so and I'm seeing a lot of. I'm not seeing a lot. I go to Disney. It's fucking everyone. All the kids are crying. It says it's the happiest place on earth. Everyone's bitching.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, so I
love
man, it. It's starting to put things into perspective. It's starting to look real good, and like nature, just leave it all behind. I don't know if you guys ever seen Into the Wild, like that was good. Right?
Yes, it was. Yes. And my biggest thing is
climb waterfalls, do all that crazy shit, man. Like,
you know,
do it.
and my biggest thing is like with like the connections with people thing. In order to build connections with people instead of trying to be like those people, is learning self-love and self-care and taking care of yourself first. And that way you can start building real connections with people because you have yourself instead of trying to see everything. Because there's like the attraction part too. Like I'm attracted to people that have the same message that I do, that have been through the same. It's normal. So having that self-love and self-care, dude, that's why I'm able to have relationships with people today, and knowing that it's the right kind of relationship and not for fucked up reasons.
Like, ask yourself what your intentions are. I think that was huge for me. And I was like, what does that mean? You know. And now all of a sudden, like, I learned who I was through my intentions. And I was like, "Oh, you need to fix some shit, Olivia." And I was like, "Okay." But like our logo, choosing recovery, and then it has finding the true you underneath it. That just speaks volumes, because, you know, we get to find ourselves. If we don't like ourselves, guess what? We get to grow. And I thought that was like crazy. I grew up thinking everybody pretended they were happy. I found out people were happy. My mind was fucking blown. Like, I was like, wait, like, people are legitimately happy in life. Yeah. And then if they're not, they just change. Well, you know, people that want to will change it and find things and pursue that. Pursue happiness, man.
Yeah.
So
my mom told me yesterday that, like, you know, this isn't going to bring money to the table. It's not going to feed your kids, do things like that.
Doesn't have insurance. And we're like,
I get to choose what I want to do in my life today. And that's the reason why, like, I haven't been able to. That's where I get to choose what makes me happy today. And guess what? I'm not trying to fucking be rich. I'm not trying to do things like that. I'm trying to help other people. But this also helps me stay clean. This is what keeps me clean today. So I have to do it. It's not an option.
And when we got together, we had a ball. You know, it was like being a little kid again. You know, but so we looked at each other one day and we're like, don't ever settle for less. And I was a manager going to store manager classes, you know, and I was getting raises, promotions, all those things. And I was going into work with fucking anxiety, like so bad. And I was like, Scott, I can't live like this. This is not good for my recovery. And I don't think that people, like, when you live recovery, like, you live it, you know, you will learn what's good for you and what's not good for you. And there was some shady stuff going on, right? Like, they were like replacing money and stuff. Okay, I'm a felon. Come on. Who are they gonna look at? Like, don't do this shit to me. And like, I left. But like, it was amazing because I found another job and then I left. Like, that's what life and sobriety gave me. It gave me financial freedom, like, I was just able to set myself up into better things and to pursue things deeper. And then, like, when this all started, God always told me I was going to speak to millions of people, and it scared the shit out of me. And I was like, no, thanks. Right. And finally, when this all happened, we got on YouTube and started doing this. I've never felt more in place in my entire life, you know, and we're at today, but I feel like this is it, you know, like, this is getting connected to people. It's sharing that message and doing these things for other people, you know?
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Yeah, we just talked a lot. So we're going to open the floor for you, and you can share anything you feel is necessary.
Yeah, no, I was like, we covered a lot. There was like one thing I wanted to add to something, but I think, you know, that's like what it is. All this shit's connected, you know, and it all just plays in. It's like a big web. This whole get down. What I've learned is it's like a spider web, you know, like if something doesn't fit in that shit, it just fucks it all. It doesn't belong, you know, like, and when you get like on that frequency I've been trying to stay on, I mean, that's like what it's all about, you know. It's real obvious at this stage where I'm at, thank God. I have a good self-awareness, like when something doesn't fit, you know what I mean? Like when I'm forcing a solution or, you know what I mean? I'm in my will or something like that. And, you know, so I go on tangents, you know, because it's all connected. Like I could sit here and talk about it'll lead into this and that. And it's like the never ending meeting, you know. I could go every day for the rest of my life and just keep talking. It's just crazy. It's just understanding the frequency. But, you know, it's just connecting with other people. It's great for us, and that's what it's all about. But it's what the earth needs. You know, I feel like this thing is way bigger than us and addiction. And I think our species, like humans, are are at an evolutionary point, and I think we're really sick.
Yeah.
I see a lot of like, and I'm not trying to get weird, but I see a lot of like similarities between like humans and cancer. You know, like we're just reproducing without purpose. You know, and consuming. We even look like tumors. Like everything else has hair. Like we're just weird looking and. You know, like we have to like sit down and develop like ideologies and religions and Maslow's hierarchy of needs and like walk this like fucking weird line to like find purpose and meaning in our lives because it just doesn't happen naturally because we need it. And we look at us like we're this like evolved species, but evolution is just a series of mutations. And I think we've just mutated away from like no other fucking species. Dogs don't have church. Like they don't need that. You know what I mean? Like they're not like at odds with anything. You know what I mean? Like I say chewing on my shoulder a lot because I feel like that's what we do. Like we're fucking so busy, and what have we done today?
Yeah.
Like we're sick. Like our species is sick, but we don't see it because we're all fucking sick. You know, it's like we just fight each other. We make no sense. It doesn't even make any sense. Like on any level, I can't even like imagine aliens came here. Try to explain this to them. I can't even fucking write it. That's why like movies have to be about like Avatar and Star Wars because like other shit just makes for a better movie. Like I can't even fucking this planet's just burnt. Like you know, it makes it hard to want to help people sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, when I can go dark real quick if I don't remember that I'm here and that you're here and that there are like a couple people out there that want to help and make this a better place, you know, for others. You know what I mean? And that's why these meetings and these connections are so important to remember that. So when we leave this and I go back out there and some fucking assholes honking at me, you know what I mean? Like on the road and I want to like go teach them a hard lesson. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I got to remember that like while that like little vendetta may seem important, there's like a big picture. And that battle, one is losing the war, and the war is like we're killing each other. We need to connect. And religion and politics and race and like all these issues, we all have our idea of what we need to stop doing and what we need to do, but all that's doing is separating us more and more. And like at this point, I'm like ready to fucking like do it someone else's way. I don't even care. Like I just want to be friends with everybody again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I want us to come together as a community. You know, I was around in 9/11, 2001. In New York, like I wasn't in the city. I was going out to school outside the city, the school place called Manhattanville College, and we could see the smoke. It was close enough to freak us the fuck out, but like we didn't feel like we were gonna die like any second. You know, so it wasn't as traumatic. Like I'm not, you know, we would just happen to be near it. But what you got to see in that area, and I don't know how it was for you, like where you guys were at, or how old you even were when that happened. Fuck.
I was in kindergarten.
I was in third.
Okay, so I was a sophomore in college, and and I saw the community come together. You know what I mean? Like everybody, the American flag was on everybody's car. Like gas stations were giving them away for free, like little stickers or magnets, or the flags you could clip on your windshield or antennas or whatever, or windows. You know, like hanging. Like every store had them. They were just giving them out for free. And it was like you might still see them. Probably not anymore, but a couple years ago, you still see like old ones. Like 9/11, United We Stand, or something and there was this like collective unity, and that was made possible by triangulating some demon, you know, overseas, Osama bin Laden, ISIS, and we were able to just like focus fire on that because our human like nature is to fucking need to constantly fucking attack something. So we had that like punching bag, and then we were like, oh, you guys are actually fucking cool. We're kicking his ass now. You know, and everybody came together, and it was crazy. New York City like was quiet for like 2 days, 3 days. You know what I mean? Like it was just interesting, and you don't see that that collective unity during crisis anymore.
Not at all.
You know, it's gone in another direction. Like you're seeing the opposite, and you know, I'm like looking over my shoulder at my neighbors even today. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? Like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I really try to stay out of politics, especially like, you know, left right stuff, but you know. Like that election, like really fucked us up as a country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
it was embarrassing too. It was just quite.
Yeah, we are, and you know, I think I don't know. You know, I'm looking past the country at this point. You know, I think the pandemic was a good reminder that we are all human and we all can get the same disease and shit, regardless of what our nationality and what our border policies are. You know, we're dealing with a lot of bullshit right now. You know what I mean? Like we're like, it makes the problems of fucking a couple years ago seem crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? The fact we're fighting over bathrooms and now like people are fucking dying like by the thousands and shit. So I don't know. What are you gonna do? These podcasts are so important because the media is like not fucking doing this. You know what I mean? Like they're sticking to a script. You know, it is what it. And I'm not putting tinfoil on my head. I'm just saying when I watch this fucking channel and I watch this channel, they're literally saying exactly the same shit
every time.
So I'd like to get other perspectives. And this is where you guys come in. There's a really cool YouTube video. I don't even know the guy. He's probably fucking super famous now, but it was a few years ago. It's got millions and millions of views. Called The Lie We Live by a guy named Fresh Tastical.
Oh, wow. I think I heard that.
Yeah, it's a really powerful video. And he talks about, like, just all the little social fucking things that we do on a daily basis. Like how we, like, you know, we can't even pick fruit. Like, I can get arrested if I pick fruit. I can't.
You can't collect rainwater. Like, what?
I need a permit to do this. No. Like, our solution's bombing everything. Like, it's just crazy. We're fucking nuts, our species. We grow in a box, like at a desk. And if we don't, like, drink the Kool-Aid, we're taking Ritalin. Like, you know what I mean? There's something fucked up here. Like, we should, at our formative years, be, like, using our hands and playing outside. Mm-hmm. And I have to sit here like a fucking and be programmed. And if we take a test, like a number, literally numbers, they put us in number. Like, I have A's, I have 90%. Like, you know, GPA. Like, what's your GPA?
And you're a number to the government, too.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Look, I have question authority tattooed on my neck for a reason. I'm probably not the guy to talk to about all that.
No, I love it. That's my kind of...
We are the same way. Like, we've, like, just, our eyes have opened up, especially in all of this, you know, and it's just crazy to think of, like, what we are programmed to do, you know, and I saw this, I mean, this is getting in conspiracies, and he knows I could talk about that for hours, so I won't. But, well,
we should, though, because as addicts, we got fucked because we, like, fucking plugged in. Like, I just did what they told. Was that what, you know what I mean? And so we gotta, like, to a certain extent, question the system, you know?
So I always say, dude, I got high to hide myself from all the fucked up things in the world, and then I figured out a better way than getting high to hide myself from all the fucked up things in the world. And by doing that, I also get to help people today figure that out for themselves, too. So that's what I mean. That's... Some of the most intelligent people in the world you see that are addicts and are actually doing a purpose, you know? So now we figured out our niche to get us away from that shit, and then a better niche to get us away from that shit and that shit. And now we get to help the next person do the same thing. And we're doing something. We're doing something productive that's not helping a company, helping something else grow, but ourselves grow and people get where they need to be.
It's disgusting to see how much of it is all wrapped around money.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's crazy.
Like,
if you look at everything is like linked together. Like all the companies are owned by the same motherfucking companies. Like, dude, just look at it's crazy. It's crazy.
I mean, just like one little thing. It's not conspiracy. I have a book in the other room. It's called "The Feeding You Lies" about like the nutrition industry. I mean, we have fucking dairies in our food pyramid in our textbooks, right? Like, there is no denying how bad for the human body dairy is.
Thank you.
And it's in our fucking textbooks. Yep. They don't advertise like buy like Johnson's milk farm, like it's got milk. Because if you buy that shit, it's coming here, motherfuckers. We got the industry on lockdown. The guy from Nestle wanted to patent water. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. Like when the healthcare providers are making money on our diseases, like I gotta question, you know, the solutions to these problems. It's all fucked up, but I've learned a lot through, you know, like I had to learn spirituality outside of like formal religion. I had to learn nutrition outside of like formal like nutrition books. You know what I mean? Like it's all a process of getting to know yourself. Like everyone's different. You know, somebody's nutrition standards and like have to be different than someone else's. You know what I mean? Like I might need a certain amino acid that he fucking needs. Also. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with the program. It's the same thing with everything. You know, and to fucking just throw us in a line and be like, you know, like, you know, if this doesn't work for you, then, you know, you fail. You're a failure. Like, F fail? Really? I failed? Like, that's the first message I got as a kid because I had, like, my learning style was different. I had a learning disability. I'm smart, dude. I'm not disabled. Like, my brain's not, I'm very intelligent. But I had to take special classes because I didn't, you know what I mean? So, like, out of the gate, I'm like, fucking, I'm different. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. Aw. That's what it's all.
He's like, why do you guys always do this?
Because they teach us more than we teach them at this age. They remind us what it's all about, dude.
Right. Hi, baby. We have 2 screens, so he's probably like.
You know, the funny thing is like people say kids will take everything out of you. You know, when you have a kid, it's over. Like your whole life is theirs
I'm
now.
a kid
But
again.
I'll tell you, when you have it's the opposite, man.
100%.
You get to have another childhood, a better one.
You're born. You're like reborn with.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
It's great. It's so cool, and they bring you back like you can't feel that. Like when you're like you know, like laying on the floor, like picking at the carpet. You know what I mean? Like looking at the grains of it. Like those little things. Like as a childhood, like you forget about those like simple pleasures. You know, they remind you.
They're
like
just
how funny
happy.
someone's face looks on TV.
Yeah. It's because they don't know right. They don't know wrong. They don't know that you like. Yeah.
They're so innocent, and the world is pure, right? Like it's untouched right now. What he sees is what he sees. You know, there's nobody drilling something into his head like, oh, well, this is the right way, or you're not.
We're taught to be wrong, and
Well, so that's the thing is like you got to wonder, like the proof's kind of in the pudding. How come kids are so happy, and then as they stay on this medium, they just get fucked up and miserable.
Yeah.
They're perfect right now. They get worse with time.
Ugh, I know.
It's just we just make them worse. That's what we do, because we're, no matter how dialed we are, we're just all messed up. So I don't know. We need help, man. It would be rad if we could swing that around, so like kids like got better as they got older and
That's
happier.
our goal.
Like old people were really happy. You see some of them. You know, you see some old people still like stoked on life. I was watching another good one's this YouTube. I forget the guy. But they interview 3 people over 100, share their secrets on life. And all of them have the same perspective. It's like no regrets. It's all programmed. They're just naturally like one day at a time. I just don't think about that. Like they're just naturally like perfectly aligned with the 12 steps. You know what I mean? And I don't know, it's just interesting to me that most people as they get older get angrier and more irritable. You know, like tired. My dad was like, everything hurts. Like,
yeah.
You know. It makes me wonder, like, is this place actually hell, or is Earth hell? You know,
it's a really good possibility.
You know, is that where we are?
Let's hope. It only gets better from here.
There's so many paradoxes, though, I've learned in my time on this fucking planet that I'd like to think that those of us that are putting in all this work on ourselves are gonna get some kind of payoff. Like whatever this is about, like it's got to pay off in some way. You know what I mean? So my name's Ian Bear. My sobriety date September 11, 2016. I am grateful for the ability to walk without any tools today.
Yeah.
Awesome.